Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Today in Black History. I'm Alicia Melton, and today I'm going to talk about Althea Gibson. Today, May 26, 1956, tennis legend Althea Gibson won the French Open Championship, becoming the first black tennis player to win a major tennis championship. Althea Gibson was born in Silver, South Carolina. Later, she moved with her family to Harlem. She developed a love of tennis at an early age. She loved to play sports, especially table tennis, and she soon made a name for herself as a local table tennis champion. After winning several tournaments hosted by the local recreation department, Gibson was introduced to the Harlem River tennis courts in 1941. Just a year after picking up a racket for the first time, she won a local tournament sponsored by the American Tennis Association. This is an African American organization established to promote and sponsor tournaments for black players. In the 1950s, 40s, and 50s, most tournaments were closed to black Americans. She picked up more titles at the American Tennis Association in 1944 and 1945. Gibson's success at those tournaments paved her way to attend college. Who can tell me what college did Althea Gibson attend? Just to test your knowledge, excuse me, to test your knowledge, what college did Althea Gibson attend? Good morning, Javo. I'll give you a hint. It is a college or university in Florida. Yes. So she attended Florida A&M University in 1950. She's among the most famous graduates at the university. Thank you. The American Tennis Association continued to work with her to develop her game. Gibson's game steadily improved, but her applications to play in white tournaments were often rejected or conveniently lost. The white dominated, white managed sports were segregated in the United States. The breaking point came in 1950 when Alice Marble, a former tennis player, wrote an article in American Lawn Tennis magazine criticizing her sport for denying a player of Gibson's caliber to compete in the world's best tournaments. Marble's article caught notice. Later that year, on August 28th, Althea Gibson became the first Black American to play in the U.S. Open, and by 1952, she was just 1 year after becoming the first Black player to compete at Wimbledon. Gibson was a top 10 player in the United States. She went on to climb even higher to number 7 by 1953. In 1953, Gibson graduated from college and took a job teaching physical education at Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. For the next few years, her U.S. Lawn Tennis Association ranking fluctuated. In 1955, Gibson was sponsored by the U.S. Lawn Tennis Association, which sent her around the world on a U.S. State Department tour. In 1956, it all came together when she won the French Open. Wimbledon and U.S. Open titles followed in both 1957 and 1958. She won both women's single and doubles in Wimbledon in 1957. After her win, she appeared in several publications, magazines, Ebony, Jet, Sports Illustrated, and Time magazine. And this was important because a lot of people had not heard of Althea Gibson, and they had not heard of her until when they saw her being featured in these magazines at that time. And so they began to follow her career. So I mentioned her U.S. Open, I mentioned all of her titles: the French Open, the Wimbledon, and the U.S. Open. Who was the next Black woman to win the U.S. Open? After Althea Gibson won in 1958, and I'm talking about the U.S. Open, who was the next Black woman to win that title? Just to test your knowledge. And while I'm giving you time to put your response in 1958, she also published an autobiography titled "I Always Wanted to Be Somebody." And you may be able to find copies at the library. You should be able to find copies at the library. And also, there may be some used copies sold online. Okay, I don't see any answers. Who was the next Black woman to win the U.S. Open? Jocelyn, you're close. You're in, you're in the family. You're close. Hi, Ionimus. So we're talking about Althea Gibson today, being the first Black tennis player to compete in national and international tennis tournaments. Yes, thank you, Javo. So my question was for Ayana who just joined. Althea Gibson won several titles: the French Open, Wimbledon, and the U.S. Open titles. And in 1958, well, 1957 and 58, she won the Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. So my question was, who was the next Black woman to win the U.S. Open title? And yes, it is Serena Williams. And do you know the year? And it's okay if you don't know the year, but it was in 1999, which is when Serena won that title. So it was 41 years later, after Althea Gibson won in 1958, that Serena Williams won that title. All right. In 1959, she turned pro, winning the women's professional singles title in 1960. But just as importantly, she started to make money. She played tennis exhibitions and played a series of matches before the Harlem Globetrotters games. For a short time, she did go into other careers, such as she turned to golf, making history again as the first Black woman to join the Ladies Professional Golf Association, which we know as the LPGA Tour. She also was a singer. She recorded one album, which was titled Althea Gibson Sings. Following her retirement in 1971, Gibson was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, In 1975, she served 10 years as Commissioner of Athletics for New Jersey State. She was also a member of the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness. Some other honors were um, she was inducted into the National Lawn Tennis Hall of Fame, the Black Athletes Hall of Fame, South Carolina Hall of Fame, Florida Sports Hall of Fame, and Florida's Women Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure there's more, but that's what I have listed. Gibson's last few years were dominated by hardship. She received more than $1 million in donations from friends and fans around the world after a friend made Gibson's situation public. She lived on for almost another decade until September 28, 2003. She died of respiratory failure in East Orange, New Jersey. Some other things she has been honored since. One was with the U.S. Postal Service, honored her with a Black Heritage Forever stamp, which was in 2013. She was also honored by the United States Tennis Association with the dedication of the Althea Gibson Sculpture Garden outside of the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Her family is seeking to have the street where she grew up to be renamed Althea Gibson Way. Also, to learn more about her, there is a PBS documentary that was released in 2014. I'm pretty sure you could probably go on their website and view that documentary. Also in the works, I read that there are 2 proposed films about Althea Gibson, so maybe we'll see something soon about her biopic. And I want to hear from you. I don't know if if we have any tennis fans on viewing, but who are some of your Black tennis players who are currently playing or who have played in the past, former professional tennis players? Let me know in the comment section some of your favorites. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to mention some of the websites that you can view to learn more information about Miss Althea Gibson. Again, you can always read her autobiography. I Always Wanted to Be Somebody. You can go to blackfacts.com, thoughtcode.com, biography.com. Check out some of the news articles in the New York Times, Palm Beach Coast, and the Tampa Tribune. Javo, Arthur Ashe, they named an elementary school in my neighborhood after him. Oh, good. Yeah, Arthur Ashe. I mentioned the another organization I think you really should also read more about, and I mentioned the American Tennis Association, which is a Black organization that sponsors and train tennis players, and a lot of the Black professional tennis players came through their organization. That organization was founded in 1916, and Arthur Ashe is one of those tennis players that was a part of that club. And so, and they still exist today. So, so definitely check out the American Tennis read more about the American Tennis Association. Jocelyn, I read Naomi Osaka is the highest paid female athlete in the world. Yes, I watched her last year playing as well. Yes, she is. I have her on my list because I'm going to share a list of players as well. I do have Naomi Osaka on my list as as a current professional tennis player to watch. Um, Thank you. I'm going to say hello to Sweetback3 who just joined and Ethan Payne who just joined. We're talking about Althea Gibson. Today, in 1956, she won the French Open Championship, making her the first black tennis player to um, play at and to win that title, not play, but win that title. And I just asked the viewers if they had any black tennis players who they followed in the past or who are currently who they're currently watching. Yes, we have Coco Gauff. She's another one. I think she may be 16 now, but yeah, she's a very good player. She's definitely someone to watch. How about I'm going to start listing some. Um, we have Madison Keys, um, Taylor Townsend. Taylor Townsend is a one who's also, and Madison Keys is playing now too as well, to look out for. And we did mention Venus and Serena Williams. Some people, Donald Young, James Blake, Katrina Adams. Katrina Adams also trained through the American Tennis Association, and she's the immediate past president of the U.S. excuse me, Tennis Association. Who else? Any more tennis players you would like to list? So, just to wrap it up again, I would just encourage you. This is just a snippet of Althea Gibson's career, but it's very important. She did break the racial barriers on the tennis court, and even prior for her, she came into playing tennis in 1940. But as I mentioned, with the American Tennis Association, they were founded in 1916. So there were other tennis players before her who could not perform, who could not play on white tennis courts. And so, so there were other players before Althea Gibson that you would probably will want to research as well, and you can find more about them again at the American Tennis Association website. Okay, so I am going to say goodbye. Tomorrow is Jeopardy Noir at 2 p.m. I pray that you will have a safe week, and thank you for watching, and take care.